Everybody has some musical ability, and it can be developed. I've been developing my musical ability for as long as I've been alive. So let's start at super basic musical ability, which is musical perception or intuition. Because you build intuition from perception. And literally, that's just your ability to hear and feel patterns in sound. You bob your head to a song, you hear a melody, okay? And if you're tapping out here and you go, I'm tone deaf, you can develop that too. An ability to differentiate pitch. So there's that, but there's also hearing rhythms. You know, drummers are some of the best musicians in the world because they have a complex understanding of rhythm, which is something that, you know, I had to sort of learn in the second half of my musical life. Step 2 would be technical ability. And this is where you start taking lessons and teachers start showing you the techniques for, you know, for me it's a violin, so bowing and fingering patterns in third position and, you know, double stops and all that kind of stuff. Or piano, you know, curving your fingers and making sure you're playing the scales. And this is where you get a working understanding of how to make music. You're not originating ideas just yet, but you're getting a working idea of how to sing, how to play in time, in pitch, and the mechanisms of the instrument. But a lot of people get stuck with step 2, which is this technical ability, and they think, well, if I become the most technically proficient, then I'll be a prodigy. And yeah, you would by definition, but you don't need to be a prodigy to be a great musician. In fact, a lot of prodigies don't have much imagination. Developing technical ability is like building a bridge between your brain, your body, and your instrument. And when you're a prodigy, all the information flows one way. It's somebody else's musical ideas going into the brain and out through your fingers. If you don't originate ideas, if you don't push things back out, you're neglecting half of the equation of being a great musician. A lot of people get stuck at step 2 because they have teachers that teach them to be technically proficient and scold them when they aren't. And this scares people away from mastering an instrument. I don't even think about it in terms of mastering. I think about it in terms of enjoying. You could enjoy an instrument. You could play an instrument. And technical ability is something that every professional musician is always working on. You don't hit proficiency and then stop. You're always trying to improve. So step 3 would be receptive expression, and that's recital or use and translation of music into other art forms. So we start by acknowledging, you know, a beat, but we express our reception of that through dance. Or we hear a song and we like the song. Intuitively, we know that we like the song. And so it can get used commercially. This is superficial listening because we're hearing the beats, we're hearing the melodies, we go, this feels good, I like this. And we don't necessarily start having an intellectual dialogue with the music yet, but this is where a lot of art comes from, is this music inspires this image for filmmakers, or this music gets me to move this way for dancers, or this would work really well behind this product or this shot. And it's plugging music into another art form so that something else gets expressed. The next level would be poetic reception. You become emotionally affected by the lyrics and the music itself because rather than moving you physically and getting you to dance, this music gets you to think or it gets you to picture things. And it will stir something within your soul. And this is a really beautiful place to appreciate music, because you're experiencing it at its full depth, but you don't completely understand how it works. And it's a really pretty way to experience life. Theoretical knowledge is a technical understanding of one or many instruments, song structure, and you start to realize there are patterns here. This is why the 4-chord song video was really revolutionary for a lot of people. They realize, oh, we like the same song over and over again with different things plugged in. The roles that different instruments or different chords, different notes, different intervals, different rhythms play in any given composition. And this is your ability to recognize and identify novel or clever ideas in music. So you can like music, and then you can say, I like this kind of music, or I like this musician because he knows what to do with that instrument. And you start having a language for appreciating it and articulating what it is you like about music, about particular songs. But if you're playing it on your own, you move on to the next step, which would be theoretical experimentation. And this is where you test your own ideas and your knowledge of the theory, and you try to come up with something interesting and different. So this could be improvisation, this could be jamming with a bunch of friends. Experimentation can be melodic, it can be rhythmic, harmonic, it can be structural. You could produce or record a song in a certain way. And having an understanding of how to record and produce music is a completely different branch of this tree that could very well be its own tree. And recorded music has its own objectives, which are different from live performance, which is the next step. Live performance is not playing a song for a crowd. I wouldn't even say that it's a performance until you really understand what you're playing and what effect you intend to have on a crowd. If you're playing a song for a crowd, that's a recital. And that's a demonstration of technical skill. A performance uses all of your knowledge, all of your theoretical knowledge, all of your theoretical experimentation. And it says, I'm going to emotionally or physically affect this crowd. And this is why I actually do think that DJs are musicians. They're great performers, because if you're a stand-up comedian, if you're a DJ, if you're a live performer, and you have a crowd in front of you, your job is to affect the entire room with a thread of continuity that makes them feel one way for a moment, primes them to feel something else, so that by the time they get here, maybe they're misdirected or if there's something that they don't expect, but they arrive exactly where you want them to be. It's almost a psychic energy transfer, but you are using your knowledge and your skills and your awareness of a room and of the crowd and how people are feeling in real time to change how people feel, how people are moving. And it's a really powerful experience when you've mastered it and you know how to interact with the crowd. And that's the thing, it's a conversation. A recital is not a conversation. A performance is. Now let's say you want to go deeper. A really deep place to start changing your approach to music is to stop approaching it from a place of music. Let's say you're a songwriter. Songs are written with lyrics, and lyrics have to generally be graspable, easy to remember, it's a hook. And commercial music tends to be based in hooks. It's they're produced, they're products. And just like a bottle of mustard, music these days, pop music particularly, and every genre has sort of become pop lately. It's been vacuum sealed, processed and made identifiable for consumption, goes through all the FDA approvals. That's the difference between buying a Lunchables and having a home-cooked meal. It doesn't necessarily feed the soul. So if you start approaching lyric writing from a place of poetry, this is what I'm calling poetic experimentation. This is playing with language in a way that engages the listener's imagination with imagery or narrative. You can invent new ways to rhyme or places to rhyme. And this is actually where rappers have surpassed a lot of songwriters and even influenced other songwriters, is the innovation in rhyme and rhythm placements, vocally, cadence, and message. You could write a song that's a concept nobody's ever expressed before. You could tell a story nobody's ever told before. You could tell the same story in a way no one's ever heard it before. And the challenge is fitting that into, 3 minutes. Where you graduate from all of this is what I call musical poia. And this is composition, as distinct from writing songs. And this is where you abstract poetry and imagery and lyricism into sound. This is where ideas become music without ever being words first. Great classical music, great film scores can take an image, either on screen or in the mind, and they'll illustrate that as sound. This is why I tell people that I think abstract art is as close as you can get to classical music, before you switch over into hearing as opposed to seeing. So when you approach music with this idea that you can draw pictures for people or create an environment for them and make them feel a certain way without telling them explicitly with words how they're supposed to feel, that's what makes the great composers the great composers. But if you're not a composer, and let's say you're a soloist or a vocalist, and you're working with lyrics, I would tell you, look at the lyrics of the song that you're soloing on, or listen to the musical themes that you're soloing against if it's an instrumental piece. You realize that the best soloists are not the ones with the best technical ability, even though those are impressive. The greatest vocalists are not the ones who sing the loudest or the hardest. It's the people who are able to interpret and express the abstract ideas or the ideas of the lyrics or ideas in conjunction with the abstract ideas in the lyrics to express something new but relevant. Again, it's a conversation. And when you get hung up on technical ability, you become a perpetual reciter. And you don't have to recite forever. You can come up with your own ideas. You can draw pictures for people. And you can play. You can enjoy the instrument. There's a reason we call it playing an instrument, and that's that it is play. So, anyway, those are just some of my thoughts about how I approach getting better at what I do. And I hope that was helpful for you.